Johnny,
Timmy,
we're on Maui, baby. Hey, look who's back. None other than Skyrama. Welcome back, brother. We missed you. He's been out traveling the world. He's been down in Vietnam, Sri Lanka, where else? Bali. And you know what he's been doing a ton of? Hybrid foiling.
Tim, what is hybrid foiling?
Hybrid foiling is when you have this little engine that attaches to your stock foil setup that allows you to propel yourself into waves, but then elevate up out of waves so you can get a true foil experience.
Tim, is this the New World Order? Did they implant a chip in your head to make you a hybrid foiler?
I think
or
pretty
is
much.
it simpler than that?
It's a little bit simpler.
Okay.
But this video is all about technique to hybrid foil, a couple tips that I think will really help you out, as well as setting up your board to hybrid foil. Now, you guys basically have been doing this since day one. Yourselves, our good friend Jim Bones, you guys, when hybrid foiling came onto the scene, you guys were on it immediately.
It's just something to get you in the water, get you into more waves.
Boys, I never thought that I'd be loyal to the lithium, but it happened.
Sky,
this is revolutionary.
Do you take lithium on a day-to-day basis, or
I do.
But you take it via the battery pack?
I take it via the sun. Lithium is really good for depression, you know, and it turns out lithium batteries is also very good for depression. It also saves your human battery, thus hybrid, thus giving you more time to enjoy out on the water and to save your legs.
Yeah, and this is one of those things where you could go out and have a prone foil session, which we absolutely encourage you to do. Keep prone foiling, keep having fun. But you're gonna go out there and maybe you're gonna catch maybe 10 waves over an hour session. Bones was catching like 35 waves in his hour session. You know, it's one of those things where you can catch more waves, you can get into waves that aren't quite breaking, you know, to get up. So my first question for you guys is like, if it's your first day on a hybrid foil, what board should you select? What mast length? What would be my foil consideration? And how do I go about getting up the first time?
Well, if you wing, then you would take your wing board because you're kind of used to it already and it's a good size. Johnny took that approach and it worked very well. Then as you get better and better, well, then you can experiment, as Bones did as well. And so, but yeah, I would say just use the setup that you have there. You don't need to go buy all this expensive extra boards or whatever. Just take what you got. So if you're a winger, take your wing board. Mass, yeah, 80 is good. If you have an 86, that's excellent. Anything longer than that is overkill. Anything shorter is probably not very ideal. So I would say 80. What do you think, Johnny?
Well, I mean, most of the hybrid foiling, probably the most plug-and-play setup is the foil drive, but it adds mass length. I mean, for me, Gen 2.
Yeah.
For me, Gen 2, 85 and below. Like I've done it on the 90, but then with that extra, you're up high. You know how it is. The long mast, unless you're under a lot of power, starts to feel a little bit crazy. So I would say 85 below, but yeah, Gen 2, I'm on the 795 hybrid foiling. That's kind of the daily driver. I've ridden 85, that mass length. So I would say 85 below on the hybrid if you're on a foil drive, because you got a little extra.
Yeah.
If the waves are very small, or if you're on a lake, then you could actually go 65, 75 in that zone, because you don't have to worry about doing radical turns and stuff like that. So that's fine on a lake, and it's also a lot more efficient.
Right.
So, but as soon as you get into some bigger stuff and you really want to rip turns and stuff, you really want that 80 to 85 zone. So, you know, it's very key on that.
And what about when you think about front foil and tail foil when you're starting? What type of front foil should you use and what type of tail?
Well, I would start out and I would make it stable. You add more weight with the battery, you add more weight with the setup. So to me, the front foil, if you're a foiler, would be something that you know has good low end, so you can get up on foil, but you can also control it.
1,000, maybe 800 if it's the HA 880 is very good, actually. That's actually a pretty nice lift. So that those would be good places
But
to start.
kind of depending on your weight.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And
Yep.
if you are on one of the bigger boards, like your wing board, that wing board's going to add more weight. Maybe you're a prone guy, but you got a bigger wing board. I would always, just like learning to do anything, you start with the bigger board that allows you more success at first,
Yeah.
and then you're going to
Yeah.
scale down.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about trigger management. Now, I found is I have a few days out there going into waves, and what I found, having been somebody who'd rode an e-foil, trigger management was really important for me in terms of just to make sure I had a nice steady drive.
Very key.
What do you think about? Like, how do you set that trigger, and what goes through your head?
Well, when people are novice, they're going to obviously be trigger happy, and they're going to really just hit it, 90%, 100%, and just keep that thing spinning. But as you get better and better, you'd be surprised you can get down to 60%, 70% of trigger. And that just comes to just finding the right level where you're being efficient, and depending on also your front foil. So there's a lot of factors that come into play.
Yeah.
But,
so in general,
the-
start a
yeah.
little softer with the trigger.
Well, and the main thing with the trigger management is just you want to be smooth. In a lot of ways, less is more. So
Yeah.
when you think about accelerating, you don't want to just be whiskey throttle,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because where trigger management really comes into play is getting up, which would be just a nice, like a nice steady build, right? And then that board's going to get on plane and you can stand on it. If you've e-foiled, you're used to that steady trigger control. The other part is when you're riding, you're coming off foil, how much trigger do I need? You want that prop spinning, but if you're jamming that trigger down, once it hits, you're going to be on...
Or the opposite. What's really terrible, and you'll find this out very quick, is if you ever let off on accident, it's very abrupt and you literally stop and you'll wipe out.
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's almost better to have more power than actually just let go of the controller. Because, a lot of time, whoa, what happened there, right? And you hit the brakes.
But it's kind of smooth. It's smooth and steady.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
let's talk about that get up process. So, assume that you're in an ocean setting, moderate wave size. So you're not in big wave size. Like, as you look out from the beach at the ocean, what type of wave do you want? How do you orient the board? How do you think about getting your momentum so that you can come up?
Well, you start ahead of time. If you ever done proning, you see the wave coming, you start ahead of time, build some speed, just like paddling. It's just, everything implies the same. And then basically you just get enough speed to match the wave. And then once you do, elbows, and then a knee, and then the foot. It's not like traditional prone where you can just jump right up, because you have to be very stable and steady. Because all of a sudden you have this different weight and you got power from the prop and the wave. And so that's the stablest way and the best way to do it, by doing that with the elbows.
Yeah, and that's where the trigger management comes into play, because what you're really trying to do is get that board to planing speed, not necessarily lifting foiling speed, but planing speed where you've got a steady platform to then get up, and then you add the acceleration, and up you go.
Okay, so you've looked for that wave. You go in the same direction of the wave so you can pick up momentum. Scott, you have the elbows, you're coming up, one knee up, and then you're up. Now, when you gain up to your feet, is there any trick to like stabilize yourself so when you're up on your feet, you're okay?
Yeah, so basically you're gonna let off the prop, you're gonna bring it up high, and at this point you got a little bit of that swell power. So you use the motor to bring yourself up high, and once you're up high, you elevate yourself, keyword elevate yourself, knowing that the prop's out, and then you stabilize, in other words, level out, and then you, as you would do as winging or proning, you would turn off without the motor. You want to feel it without the motor. And then you basically turn and go back out, because you're using the first wave just to get up and go, depending on the situation. If you're way out there and it's a long wave.
The main thing getting up is going with the grain. So you don't necessarily want a breaking wave that's like white water.
Nope.
Yeah.
But you want swells that are pushing you forward.
Yeah.
And I would say in general, like compared to proning, get on that trigger before that wave's coming. You'll see the swell coming, but now you're going to have that push. That push is going to, you don't have enough power to necessarily be on plane instantly like an e-foil.
Yeah.
So use that swell to get things stable, get to your feet, and then come up and elevate. And at first, don't worry about going crazy. Just worry about, okay, now I'm on my feet and I'm just going to be steady. Here's a steady pace. I'm on foil. I'm not riding necessarily up on the foil with the pot out of the water, but I'm comfortable with that thing. It's up on foil, your motor's here, but now I can just cruise it.
Yeah. One of the things that we had a bunch of people in the water while we were out there proning the other day and we're a hybrid. One of the things I noticed is the real tail drag. Like the board is angled like this, which obviously is going to be highly inefficient. So you want to get that board to be nice, flat going across.
Yeah, it's a little hard to calculate, but in general, I would say what I've seen, the motor can overcome a lot of sins because you have power. But if you see the board angle like this, or even you have your buddy, hey, film me while I'm on a hybrid foil. If the board's angled like that, you're burning so much battery and you're losing power, but you can get away with it.
Yeah.
Because you have it. But it generally means move things up, get things balanced. You want to be flat, you want to be efficient.
Now, naturally, from the propeller, you're gonna get that, that front nose lift, because on the, it's gonna create that lift. So you just shift your body weight and your shoulder weight over more, and that'll also help you level out, just kind of like when people have tried with an e-foil.
Yeah, one of the things that I found a little bit challenging and interesting, I'd love to get you guys' opinion on it, is once I would get into a wave, finding the right height to go, and I know it sounds silly, as a wing foiler, as a prone foiler, as a wake foiler, but with the weight of that battery and trying to just I felt like I was really high and a little less stable because I have the weight of the battery there. What's your tip for finding that right height that just feels good?
My tip with anybody starting out would be get comfortable getting up and just cruising. Okay, now once you're under power, get comfortable under power and keep that throttle going. Give it some gas, but steady. You're not just raking on it, but then get comfortable going from the transition of riding under power, you're still under power, and just subtly bring it up and glide.
Yeah.
And as it comes down, keep the power in the motor and come down. You're not getting into any big swells or any big waves. You've just gotten up and just away from.
You're looking
the
for
crowd,
micro bumps.
and you're looking for just getting up,
Yep.
coming down. Keep that throttle on, and as you come down, it's that transition from getting that pod up. It's takes a little getting used to of lifting the pod, and now you're on the wave. Best way to do it is relatively flat water. Come up, glide. You're confident with that? Okay, now come into the wave.
Yeah.
And then come up. I'll tell you, on the transition of being up on foil and down, you can start to feel it. As that pod then enters the water, things slow down. But by staying on the throttle, you start getting used to it, where it's okay, I need a little power. You're spinning that prop. Yeah. So as you come down, you still have the power to go.
What do you think, when you're looking at waves, the first couple waves that you decide to ride, how big should they be? And how extreme? Are you getting near whitewater? Is it standing up a little bit? What's the ideal wave when you start to get into ocean surf on it?
Well, I would avoid the whitewater or the reef where it's cracking. I would just get comfortable on the shoulders.
Ocean open swell. You really just want the unbroken. You want the rollers, the unbroken. You don't even want to think about whitewater, because this is a whole new world for you.
Yeah.
And you don't need much, and you can go way out to way outside to the unbroken, which is also takes you out of the lineup, takes you out from people, and it's a beautiful thing. They can have all their broken water, and you can have the most pristine, virgin, unbroken swells that just go on and on.
Yeah, and just a quick note about staying out of the lineup. You now have a hybrid foil that has an engine. You can go places that other people can't paddle. You can get into waves. Stay out of the surf break. Stay out of the prone foil break. Go to the outside, be respectful. Make sure that they're out there, they're able to enjoy that. Okay, just please do that for all of our sake. Now, as we get more advanced as a hybrid foiler, you can actually start pumping, right? Sky, I see you out there, pumping all the time. Why are you doing that? Same technique as as when you're prone foiling or behind the boat?
Absolutely. So a lot of times I'll pull out of a wave, and the wave's right there. If it's not too far, I'll actually pump, connect to that without the battery, wrap that and ride that. And then then I'll go further out and then use the motor. So the whole thing about the hybrid foil is you're just trying to blend what you normally do, whether it be supping or prone foiling, and you're blending that in, and you're making it more, let's just say, more prone foiling for me versus using 100% battery. For me, I've only used it when I need to just help, and it really only assists my pump. I always pump. Even when I'm going back out, I pump, and I bring it up out of the water, and I glide for a while, kind of like what we used to do. It's called the cadence pump. 1, 2, 3, glide. Same thing with the hybrid foil. 1, 2, glide, come back down. Motor boosts you back up like a dolphin pump. Just boom, and then you're back up. Glide.
If you can figure out how to do that,
yeah, a lot of people aren't doing it.
You
yeah.
will save your battery percentage by a ton.
Yeah.
And there's actually a thing. It's a completely different cadence from pumping because you got the battery, but you're blending pumping technique with the motor technique to then give it a boost, but get the glide, get some pumps, give it a boost, and it's amazing how long you can make those batteries last.
And it's not only that, it really helps you get a feel for the foil. When you start to pump and actually do that, when you come right into a wave, it feels like proning again, because suddenly you're engaging without any motor, and you can get that rail-to-rail feel and turn on a wave. So I do the same thing. I'll come out of wave with a lot of speed, let off the motor, I glide into the wave as I would do when I was proning without any motor. Now, a lot of the novices and beginners, they're motoring almost 100% of the time. They'll motor right up into the wave, and that's just not how you want to approach it. You want to come up high and dry with a lot of speed, and you want to just do it as you would do prone if you can do that, but and wrap it and without the battery.
So most of the beginners, and we were talking about this, if you have a wing foil board, longer mast, great, start with that. You'll go through a progression, where you drop down into a smaller board. As you get down to a smaller board, you need a little bit more wave momentum to be able to get up on that.
Not too much.
Now, Sky, we were watching you do some funny things on the board, but that's a pretty small board. What do you call that start?
Well, it was kind of like the old breakdance move. I was calling it the worm, and I just basically jigged the foil while I was laying down. The boys were teasing me. Yeah, it does look funny.
It looks.
I do it for the fun factor of it. But what that does is kind of just like belly pumping. You basically, it's kind of like boogie foiling.
Break free,
exactly.
And you hop up,
and it gets the lift. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I think as you go down to that smaller board, I think the nirvana about it is finding this point where you actually can have that prone foil feel, even though you're using the motor to get there.
I've gone down to 9 liters. I've gone down to kite. I've actually paddled kite boards that are like literally 3'2", 3'3", and I had a challenge and I won $100 for the guy challenged me, said, "You can't paddle that up and get in a wave." I said, "Oh yeah." I said, "You don't know? Okay, I'll take that challenge. If I don't get it up in 3 waves, you win. I give you $100." Anyway, I won the bet. But a kite board. So of course, with a hybrid foil with a motor, and I got on it and I felt the speed. I said, "This is too easy." So you can go down as little as 5 liters if you have, enough width and surface area. Because once you start planing, it's like a skimboard.
Yeah,
it really is. You don't need all this foam. People have all this conception of foam and stuff, foam, and I'm like, just get that out of your mind and really just think about planing and surface area and speed.
Yeah.
And when you got that, you come out of the water,
something to work towards. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you're curious about hybrid foiling, get out there and do it. It's a lot of fun. Please be safe. If you have further questions, you can reach Sky on Instagram, reach out to Johnny and I at Half-Life.
If you guys got any questions too, because this is about it, and you guys know also how I still ride. I love the under the board setup from hybrid foils and foil drive, but this still exists, and I guess Duotone's coming out with one. I haven't rode it yet or tried, but if you guys have questions how you want to set this up.
It's where you store your batteries so that you don't kick it on the board.
You mount your box.
You
if you got the Gen 1 or you still have the box hybrid foil, hit me up. I'll help you guys out.
Thanks so much, Johnny, Sky. Thank you guys. I think with this, Johnny, mahalo, aloha. Thank you for checking out our video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll talk to you real soon.
All right.
Thank you, Sharky, for the tunes.